You can start sharing your screen anytime, Jess.
Can you rename me as a host? It won't let me.
Oh, I can totally do that. Awesome. I'll do the same with Brian. Oh, he's all good. Good to go. Welcome everyone for joining us this morning for the 2023 Northeast Pasture Consortium annual meeting and conference. We're getting ready and we are just going to do a quick welcome and then we'll roll into Brian Moyer and our intro to marketing today.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to take you through a few slides here to get us started. I'm Jessica Williamson. I'm one of the co-executive directors of Northeast Pasture Consortium. Jen, who you just heard from, is our other co-executive director. So she and I tag team things, and we will be your hosts for today. To start off with, I just wanted to give you a nice warm welcome. I don't have my slides on presentation view because I actually have these looped together so that we can play them for you guys later today. So if you just bear with me, I'm just going to click through them here so that we can go through and I can just kind of brief you on what each of them says. Okay, so first up, I would like to give a huge thank you to all of our conference sponsors for this year. We did decide to go virtual again this year, mostly for funding reasons. And so because of these sponsors, we're able to come to you on the Whova platform, which does cost a little bit extra than what a traditional just Zoom type conference would cost. And so it's because of these sponsors, we're able to come to you on this platform where we're able to interact with one another all day long before the conference starts, even after the conference as well. We're able to have these nice playbacks for you available. So a huge thank you to our conference sponsors. Also, if you go to the app, the Whova app, I would imagine that a lot of you are probably watching on your computer screen like I'm doing as well, but I also have the Whova app uploaded on my phone where I plan to do all of the interactions with the question and answer, and you can go on and introduce yourself and talk about your operation, etc. So I plan to have both of those things going today simultaneously. So if you have not downloaded the app, we would like to invite you to do that now. You can search for this conference in the scroll bar at the top, and it'll automatically take you right to the meeting that we're in today. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to skip over going through an in-depth analysis of the agenda, but that's available on the app. It's available on the Facebook event that we posted. So you should have access to that fairly readily in different locations. I would just like to give a nice thank you to all of our executive committee members. Without the executive committee, this conference would not be possible on an annual basis. So thank you to all of you who make this possible. Whether in a large or small part, we could not do it without you, and we thank you greatly. Finally, I would just like to put our social media and our website information on here. And like I said, these will be scrolling all throughout the day in between our different speakers. So you'll have an opportunity to either take a screenshot or to snap a picture of it on your phone. But please follow us on social media, particularly Facebook. We are pretty active on there. We start advertising for whenever our consortium is between December and January every year on Facebook. So it will probably give you the first announcement of where we'll be and when we'll be meeting for the year. And then this is our website. Our website is active at www.grazingguide.net. And this is what it looks like in the top bar. But if you scroll to the bottom of the page, and I encourage you to do this even before the end of the day, if you're not getting our newsletters, right there where the red arrow is, there's actually a link to click that you can sign up for our newsletter. And Jen does an excellent job of sending out those newsletters and keeping us updated on any of the happenings within the Pasture Consortium. Also, on the bottom left corner on this slide, I put the email address that you can reach us pretty quickly. We will answer Facebook messages, we'll answer these email messages. So if you need to get in touch with us, that's going to be the quickest and best way to get in touch with us. And with that, Jen, that is all I have. And once again, thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Jess. And thank you again, folks, for joining us. One or two little tips about Whova. Just wanted to double check that folks are aware. If you're watching this through the Whova interface, we do have a Q&A section over on the right. Please drop in questions that you have for any of our speakers, and we will go through those and be able to see those and look at them and ask questions on your behalf. It actually is a lot more streamlined for all of us to be able to have written questions so that we as the hosts can ask our speakers questions. Is really helpful. And if you're someone who is watching through the Zoom interface, I think that most everyone is doing a great job of being muted. Please do keep yourself muted if you can possibly do that. And thank you so very much. I'd like to turn it over to Brian to start us off on our Marketing, Markets, and Profitability Day. So Brian, would you mind kicking us off?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Thank you so much, Jen, and everybody for having me here this morning. I'm excited to be here. Share my screen here. And again, Jen, tell me if that's not the proper view.
Looks great. Perfect view.
Okay, great. Thank you. You never know on this end. So let's see if I get myself situated here. There we go. Yeah, thanks again for having me here today. And to talk about marketing and connecting with customers, which I like very much. See if I get me to the next slide. Advance here. There we go. That's just a little bit about me and my work with Penn State Extension. I've been with Penn State Extension for about 13 years now, and PA Farm Markets is a program I started that is kind of a state association for farmers markets and on-farm markets for markets in Pennsylvania. And it's also part of our food systems, local foods team. I do a lot of work around direct-to-consumer marketing and some value chain coordination work. Before that, I was farming full-time at our farm here in Pennsylvania. I'm in kind of southeastern Pennsylvania, the edge of southeastern Pennsylvania in Berks County. And my office is out of the Lehigh Valley in Allentown. And we did pasture-based livestock here, doing poultry, sheep, and goats, and some pigs. And did that for a dozen years, selling at farmers markets and through about 4 CSAs and to some restaurants. So I'm happy to share with you some of my experience on that. And this is what I was going to share with you this morning, connecting producers with consumers. We're going to look at who is your customer, their kind of what their who your potential customers are, and the purchasing values that they purchase under, some demographics we want to consider when trying to identify our customers, and psychographics, and what are some of those consumers' expectations of you and your product offerings. And we're going to talk a little bit about working with chefs and working with your butcher. Both are very different businesses than ours, and we maybe need to understand a couple of things of how they operate, so we can have a better working relationship with them. And then finally, how do we keep the customers we have? Which is pretty critical to keep those customers, and also it's a lot cheaper than trying to find new customers. And it's always going to take three things, which is education, information, and communication are the three main things for, in my mind, for keeping customers. So with some basics of marketing, and maybe a lot of you have heard of this before, the 4 Ps of marketing, which is product, place, price, and promotion. And the product is what is it we are trying to sell? The place, where in the marketplace are we going to offer this product? Like farmers markets, CSAs, restaurants. At what price point are we offering the product? And promotion, how are we going to let the public know that what we have to offer? And to help us understand the 4 Ps question, we need to know who our potential customers are. And are we offering a product that might be a little more expensive than, say, you can find in a grocery store? Is it unique? Is it a value-added product? If so, it might dictate the place we are offering it and where we're going to promote it. So you need a market plan of kinds. And yes, everybody said you need a business plan, we need a production plan, we need a rotation pasture plan, we need a plan for everything, right? But if we're trying to capture all of that consumer dollar, as opposed to, say, wholesaling it, where we might get a portion of that consumer dollar, we're taking back what we were giving up in wholesaling, which is folks who were concentrating on this and the 4 Ps of marketing. And so we need a plan to do that. And you can spend estimated as much as 30% of your time in your busy work week marketing. And I determine marketing as the moment you decide that that animal is at the weight and condition that it's going to be the best it's going to be, and you're putting it on the truck or the trailer, that production hat comes off, your farming hat comes off, and your marketing hat comes on. Everything from then on, because the production is done, now we're going to have turn it into a product that we can market. And that's when all your marketing costs and everything start calculating from there. So we need to determine who is your target market, who's the customer, what exactly are we marketing, and how do our services and products match the needs of our customers? So ultimately, good sales solves a problem for your customer. It's not just forcing products onto them, it's actually helping them solve a problem or a need that they have. And how will those customers know that we have what they need? So these are like the 4 bullet point areas my presentation is going to work on. And starting with this is from the Hartman Group. And Hartman Group studies consumer behavior, particularly around consumer purchases of folks who purchase under the notion of organic products and or sustainability. They buying products that they feel make a difference in the world or make a difference in their lives in a meaningful way. And so with that, in this illustration here, they segment this consumer group that's buying under the notion of sustainability into 4 different groups. In the core group, there's 13% of the consumers that identify with this would identify as being core. In other words, they read labels, they are concerned about packaging, they're concerned about what ingredients are in the product, interested in certifications, and then it goes out from there to this inner mid-level core to outer mid-level core, and you can see that makes up like 66% of that consumer group. So it's significant. But they're not necessarily as intense as the core group is. And then you get to periphery, which are folks, they're going to buy it if it's in front of them. And, you know, and what this next slide is, this is I like to focus on this because it's the language that this group uses, these various groups use, identifying that how they make their purchase criteria. So you can see with the core and that inner mid-level, particularly transparency, local, authenticity. Don't try to greenwash me. You know, it's got to serve a greater good. To gain some knowledge, experience is important to most of the group, and of course, you can see personal benefit is important to all these groups. You get some kind of personal benefit out of what purchasing here. And then we get down to the bottom here where it says price, convenience, comparability, which is more important for the folks on the periphery and that outer mid-level, right? And if we think about where we see this kind of language in marketing materials, I look at price, convenience, comparability, and I think of box stores. You know, they all have various themes around that. You know, save money, live better type of things. And my point being is that if you decide that your customers that you're trying to reach fall into more of this core and inner mid-level, we have to think about the marketing language that we're using that's going to address those issues in the top left corner. You know, the transparency, the local, the authenticity, what greater good is your product serving? And that's going to be attractive to those groups. So you're using language to attract the consumer group that you're aiming for. It's really important because we're a subculture, right? We're like 2% of the population is involved in producing food in this country. And so we have our own language that we use amongst each other. But we have to think about the language that's important to our customer. So with that, who is the customer? We're going to try to identify this customer. What is their what's the demographic that makes up the customer we're aiming for? What's their gender? What age range are they in? What's their income level, or a household income level anyway? Are they in blue collar or white collar professions? Where's their location? If we're identifying a certain community, are they urban? Are they rural? Are they suburban? Do they have a family? And what's their education level? Also, we want to consider the psychographics, which is, you know, where do they shop? When do they shop? How often do they shop? What is their motivations to purchase? And how do they like to purchase? Do they like to purchase in person, or do they like to purchase online? Or maybe a combination of both. And what is their expectation? What will the consumer want or expect from our product? And I've used this slide a lot, so I apologize if you've seen any other presentation I've done and you've seen this slide before, but I think it gets to what expectations are. Oh, let me back up a second. If I go back to the demographic, I can give you an example on how this is important, or why I think this is important. I do a number of what are known rapid market assessments, and maybe you've heard that term. They're used all over the country for farmers markets, and it includes DOT surveys and customer counts and the like. And in the DOT survey, we ask about 4 or 5 questions based upon how often do they visit the market? What's their age range? How much do they typically spend? What do you typically purchase when you come to the market? Things like that. And so from that, we get a lot of information and basically can determine the economic activity that takes place on that particular day in that market. And, you know, as you know, most farmers markets, they do spend, a lot of them spend a lot of time thinking about things about music, entertainment, family activities. So they spend time and effort and money to be able to put together these things to have happen at the market. But overwhelmingly, any data I've seen or I've created from doing these things, the demographic for farmers markets are overwhelmingly people over 50 years old with no children in the household. So my point being is, if I'm a market manager, and I've been a market manager, do I want to spend my effort and market dollars doing activities for maybe who are not the majority folks who are coming to the market, or do I want to spend that on the customers, paying attention to the customers who are coming to the market and keeping them coming to the market? So that's how all this can come about, is about where you're making your effort, or where you're spending your time and money and your marketing efforts to the appropriate customer. So back to this, what I like about this, it's an old screenshot. It identifies what majority, I think, of customers, especially buying our pasture-based meats, are thinking about. They want that kind of eating experience at the dinner plate we see up front here, that gourmet dinner experience. And they want to know that the animal had the life of that banner up top of the nice photo of the pasture land. With no pictures of animals outside of the silhouette that makes up animals in the logo. I'm not knocking pictures of animals, but I'm thinking for the most part, you have to think about where your consumer is coming from. If they're 5 generations removed from having any kind of form of working in the land background, they're not going to think about it, necessarily want to think about. And I'll tell you, as a another sheep person, as Jen, I know it was a sheep person, if I see people selling lamb at a farmer's market in particular, they always have a lot of times, I shouldn't say always, but I see a lot of producers will have lovely little pictures of their children holding the newborn lambs, which is really cute as dickens. But chances are you might be turning off a lot of your customers. They don't necessarily want to think about that. They might like lamb chops, but they don't want to think about the baby lambs. So having some of those considerations, thinking about what the customer experience is, and I thought that's a nice example of it. So in this example, let's say, excuse me, and this demographic actually comes from some work that was largely done around CSAs, and we can argue that it's the similar type of customer demographic that we're trying to attract for our products. And so largely they're going to be suburban, urban, mostly female, between 30 and 49 years of age, educated, and they like to prefer to consume organic foods. So with that, we can develop strategies to try to, and so if we know that information, let's assume that that's the information, and we can think about where do they get their information, so we can get our products out in front of them. And of course, mostly it's going to be online, right? This is our window to the world. And online, so you can think of social media, of course, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, websites. Do they look at websites? If we're facing in that demographic we're looking at, we probably want to pay attention. Well, which social media should I be paying attention to? Probably Facebook and Instagram. And from there, you can direct them to a website as well. So same, there's a lot of this online stuff, and so much of it, how do I think about it? How do I pay attention to it? I think of them in these 3 categories: there's social media, a website, and still email. Email is still really big, and so it's worth paying attention to. But if we have a plan to do this, we can really address the 4 Ps of marketing through these 3 platforms. And so I think about social media, I think of it in terms of conversation. We're just sharing some information, some education, things that are happening on our farm, very conversational, and maybe some educational. But ultimately, we want to try to use that if driving people to the website for the important details that they might need to know, which is the who, what, when, and where. And like how to place orders, where do we find your products? What markets are you at? Or is it all sales on farm? How much do your products cost? And then email here again for some other communications, such as a newsletter. Newsletters are still, an e-newsletter is still worthwhile doing, and also with tools like MailChimp and such that allow you to evaluate how that newsletter is doing, because they can tell you what the open rate is, what people are clicking on, and all valuable stuff to do that you couldn't get through print ads. Nobody knows the nobody ever knows or ever will know the effectiveness of print ads as a whole, but you can get that from e-newsletters platforms. And you let people know what any specials you're running. You can sales, or if there's events happening on the farm. If developing a well-managed email list, not inundating people with the emails, right? It's on a regular basis, but not on a daily basis. On a daily basis, then it's the social media. Right? So in all these things too, ultimately, what are we marketing? We're trying to tell a story. And I argue that the story you're trying to tell is about your farm more than it is about your products. This picture that's shown here, this is a farm in a farm market in northern New Jersey, and you can see they were there 125 years. They've been on this land in this location. And what I liked about this is that usually when I visit farm markets, I see these things, but it's usually in their office. Nobody else sees them. And these folks took all this stuff out of their office and they put it on the wall for their customers to see, and it tells their story about their farm and their farm history, which is really pretty well done. So there are ways that we can do that. They don't have necessarily to share your entire family history, but it's also reflecting a sense of what your values are in your business, and you're obviously kind of marketing that as well. And who is buying your product, sharing with the other customer members that purchase your product. This is unique, looking at the consumer perception of your product. Now I took this photo in DuPont Circle, the market, farmers market at DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C. This person is a beekeeper selling honey and honey products. This is a piece of honeycomb that she puts in these little box, has this little ribbon on it with and displays them on this piece of burl maple that kind of nicely highlights the product. And it says, this is something different. This stands out. And she was selling these for, I think, between $20 and $25 a piece. And that was her last one for the day. So she was obviously selling them. So this is somebody who knew who the customer base is at that market that she's going to be selling to, and how to present that product to that customer base and get the premium dollar for it that she felt her products deserve. So that's somebody who's nailed the 4 Ps. So let's take a look at some things about working with your butcher, right? It can be an interesting relationship. It can be a challenging relationship. But I think the one thing to keep in mind is that both you and your butcher have the same goal. You're trying to produce the best possible product from the animal you bring to that butcher that day. And with that in mind, if we keep that in mind, then maybe we can address any other potential hurdles or stumbling blocks. We're all trying to do the same thing, because nobody wants to produce an inferior product. And some things to understand maybe is to understanding their schedule. What is the schedule if it's a USDA plant? What is their kill day when they have the inspector there? What is their cut and wrap day? and also understanding your own yields, which I think is going to be addressed at some point here today. Some talk about yields, and which is super critical, right? There's always the fear notion that the butcher kept some of my meat. Well, probably not. Do mistakes happen? Yes, they do, but nobody wants that to happen, and least of all the butcher. So they provide. We also keep in mind that, you know, the butcher doesn't really work for us. They work for themselves. They have a business, and they provide a service that we pay for. So we do well to understand a bit about their business, their needs, and their limitations. And I'll give you some examples of that. But also find out what do they specialize in? What do they like to do? All of us in our jobs have something that we really like to do, and that maybe we really excel at. And also, when in doubt, take some cookies. Cookies are nice. Everybody likes cookies. Make a friend. And so the limitations, I'll give you an example. I used I had a USDA processor in my region, and then also a custom butcher, and really good butcher, itinerant butcher. He would come and slaughter at the farm, and then he would take the carcass back to his shop that was always immaculate. Anytime he went in there, it was sparkling clean. He was fanatical about having a clean shop. Anyway, I was raising large blacks at the time, and pigs, and he would come and kill the pigs. And then when he'd call me and say when I could come pick up the meat, and he'd always say, "But there's a lot of fat on those pigs." And I say, "Yeah, well, that's all right. You know, fat's good. Fat's flavor, right? We don't mind fat." And after about the third time of butchering these pigs for me, and he said, "There's a lot of fat on there, Brian." And I said, yeah. And he said, "Brian, you don't understand. I don't make lard." There's his limitation. I don't make lard. So therefore, I'm spending a lot of time removing excess fat that I can't be compensated for. Because just how they price out butchering, right? It is so much per pound to cut and wrap. So if he's not doing anything with that fat, if he doesn't have the capacity to do it, then he's losing money on butchering my pigs. So that's really important to understand. And so together we worked on, he had someone who produced a lot of feeder pigs and produced really nice feeder pigs, and he liked butchering those pigs. And so we started getting feeder pigs from this person, and that solved that problem. Everybody was happy. And also, can you adjust your production to match their processing if need be? That's hard for us to do, but it's even harder for them because they can't adjust pretty much anything. And the other example, I guess, so my lambs went to the USDA process because I was selling cuts of lamb at a couple farmers markets and on our farm. And so I would take a half a dozen or so, or 8 at a time. And because I wanted to understand that, you know, when you show up and you're unloading these lambs and one of the employees sees, "Oh, sheep, I hate sheep," it fills you with a lot of confidence that you're going to get a quality product back. But also, I was in the middle of a very busy portion of the season. And so what I did is I adjusted my schedule, my breeding schedule. So I was taking lambs after the holidays. So in January, February, March, I was taking lambs because I was doing a winter market. And so that was perfectly fine. And they're much slower. And I didn't hear that phrase anymore. And I think I got a better quality product back. So it was a matter of adjusting my production to meet their process. They're happy because they had work to do in a very slow period of time of the year. And hopefully then they made a little more money on my lambs than they would in the regular season. And again, cookies are nice. That guy needed cookies. That guy who didn't like sheep, give him some cookies now, maybe he'd like my sheep. I copied this from the website of a processor, USDA processor near me, or near my office actually. And they say on there, I like this because they say exactly what they're going to do for you when you bring those animals to them. This is all about bringing animals to their facility and what they expect of you. So I don't think it gets much clearer than this. You know, animals will be inspected before and after slaughter according to USDA requirements. We're not responsible for any animal or animals until they have been safely unloaded into our pens. So that's your responsibility, is how you get them off the trailer or truck. We'll provide a secure corral for your animal or animals while they await slaughter. All animals must be delivered in a properly ventilated livestock trailer or truck. So that tells me they've had a problem where animals were being delivered and arrive in some form of distress, and did not want to be responsible for that. Animals will be handled in a professional manner according to all humane handling laws. They're saying exactly how they're going to be and what you should expect of them when you deliver the animals. So that's some things to consider with your butcher. So if we're looking at well, now we get that product back, maybe some restaurants are or we're thinking about selling into restaurants. What are some considerations there? Because the biggest thing, which is sure is pretty obvious, is they have a complete opposite schedule of yours. Right? We're working in agriculture. We're generally end early and start early. But they, you know, start late and end very late in their day. So it can be difficult to connect with them. I found personally the best ones that are chef owners. They own the business, and they're also the chef, because they can do anything they want. So if they're looking to be buying local meats, they're going to do it. Or the other way, if you have a owner that maybe is really into it, and they tell the chef, I'm bringing meat from this farm, the chef may or may not be into it. They're going to do it maybe because the owner wants that, but are they going to be enthusiastic about it? And also, they tend to move around quite a bit. So I mean, I know one restaurant I was selling to for in that couple of years that I was selling products to them, I saw 6 different chefs, and invariably I'd walk in and somebody I don't know, they don't know me, they weren't expecting me, the owner didn't tell them, so now they're caught off guard, and now you're in the middle of this thing. And also I was really shocked when I started selling the restaurants how little, I don't think it's the case anymore. I think chefs pay a lot to how food is produced, but going back, you know, 20 years or whatever, they did not, and they were shocked, you know, about how really it takes 7 to 8 weeks to raise it. It only takes 7 to 8 weeks to bring a chicken up to that. And to give you an example, I had I was in this restaurant. It was a well-known chef. He had a TV show on PBS, and they opened up a new restaurant about 40 minutes southeast of me. And I would take them. They take about between 20 and 30 chickens a week. I was taking them that every Wednesday, and the sous chef would do this invariably. He would come out and bring him somebody from the kitchen staff, and then we go through this game. He said, watch this, Brian, how fresh are those chickens? Well, they were walking on Monday. You know, we would do this, we play this game every week, and he got the biggest kick out of it. I think it was a matter of that education, and also educating the staff about, you know, this is the quality product we're bringing into the restaurant. Getting orders can be difficult. Typically, I would say, if I'm going to generalize again, that chefs are not going to place an order with you. You have to get an order from them. And that could be several ways. For me, it was on Tuesday, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I knew I could reach a chef or a couple of chefs if I had a couple of restaurants, to find out what they wanted that week, and I would bring it to them on Wednesday. And so I knew I could get them on the phone because they were done their lunch service if they were doing lunch, and before their dinner prep. So they had this little lull that I could have a conversation with them about what they wanted this week. Nowadays, what I hear from chefs is they don't want you calling either. What they do want, you can text them. And that's a great idea. I mean, it's fast communication. That's what they like. And that's might help you in your day as well, too. This is what I got available this week. I'm going to take some, and also it prevents any, they can be distracted people. They got a lot going on, and you show up and say, well, I didn't order that. You can show them text and say, yeah, this is the conversation we had just the other day. Oh, okay. So it's a challenge. My rule of thumb is I didn't go pursuing restaurants. I let restaurants pursue me. So they, invariably if they were looking for local food, they can find you, hopefully. And then you can have that conversation, because also a lot of times I would get the phone call. It would drive my wife crazy, because say, oh, you want X amount of chickens a week? Yeah, I could do that. And get off the phone. She says, you can't do that. We're selling every chicken that you're having, butchering 125 a week and selling them all. And I said, yeah, but chances are they won't call back. And a lot of times they didn't. But the ones that did, then I knew we're serious about it, and we could accommodate them. So I think that's understanding who that customer is and what their limitations are, which is time, and what their expectations are, which is a quality product, and how's the best way to reach them. But mostly it's operating around their time zone, not yours. So why do customers leave? Let's look at a little bit at customer retention, because this is really important, because it is really, really cheaper to work on customer retention than it is on working to find new customers. So this is I did a lot of I did some searching on general business things, why customers leave, regardless of what you're presenting. Customers leave, customers come and go. And it's pretty universal. So you can see here, 4% is just natural attrition. People move, lifestyles change. And 5% are lured to a competitor. 9% is because of price. Especially we can think about today with rising costs of things, and that maybe some people are priced out of some products that we're offering. 14% dissatisfied with our product or service, but 68% don't feel valued. And it's called a perceived indifference. In other words, they believe that, well, whether I'm buying from you or not doesn't matter to you. So we have to be very conscious of that the customer needs to feel valued. That every single one of your customers are important to you in having your business thrive. And then so how do we communicate that? So like I said, it's cheaper to retain customers than acquire new ones. Loyal customers tend to be repeat customers. They'll come back, and especially if they feel valued, they will be back. Effective for moving customers along the value ladder. And that means as you build those relationships with your customers, you're also building trust. They have a level of trust with you. So that means they're more inclined to then buy more expensive products from you, because they trust you and they know there's a value to that. And because of that trust factor, think of it in scales. When they start off, there's no trust, that we don't know each other yet. So this is my money over here, and this is your product over here. It's really, really difficult. My money is more important. So we're trying to get that balance of with that level of trust that you earn from the customer, to where they really highly value your product. And happy customers often lead to new customers. They will tell other people that about you and your products and how great they are. And then also, what lessons can we learn from our customers? What feedback are we getting from them so we can improve those relationships? What's the reasons for buying from us? What's their reasons for not buying from us? If they stop buying from us, hey, we haven't seen you in a while, can we evaluate that experience? Can we have a way of evaluating the customer experience? How do they like buying from us? Do they like coming out to the farm? Is that still convenient for you? How do you use the products? What's the, I don't know about you, but we always have, like, in our house, both my wife and I like to cook, and but we have dishes that we make all the time because we like them and we're pretty good at them. So if someone asks me how I'm using a certain product, I can say, well, we make this from it. And maybe they have suggestions, say, hey, did you ever try this? This is really good. The effect of a product on their habits and attitudes, and the importance of community to your customer, and what's the effectiveness of our communication and education strategies to inform the customer. And then lastly, improving retention becomes those three things I mentioned in the beginning: education, information, communication. You want to have the customer know, and these are things you can have on your website, what to expect. Cooking, storing, preserving information of the products they're buying from us. Maybe the customers need to know of a bad weather event, especially these times, that has happened, that maybe is going to affect our production. Harvest schedules. How often can I expect to have the product, that you'll have the product available for me? And make them feel a part of it. They're part of the farm, but the kind of communication here again, you could use an e-newsletter, your social media posts about what's going on. What's going on? I have no idea the time of year, this time of year, early March, what kind of activities are happening on the farm. And continued communication even through the winter months, where maybe not a whole lot might be going on, but customer want to know that, hey, we still got to feed animals every day, and it just may not occur to them. And then I'm going to leave you with something just to share with you, the because I know it's going to be addressed later today about your break-even points on your carcasses, but this is a tool that I have on our extension site, and it's just kind of automated when you're doing beef, pork, or lamb. If you know your cost of production, you can put these in, and using averages, percentage yields, it'll give you what your break-even point is on that, and that's a link to that if you're interested. And then I will leave that up, and I'm happy to address questions if I have. Yeah, we have time for questions.
We do, and thank you, Brian. We have about 8 minutes left in the session, and we do have some questions coming in. I'm going to ask, would you mind at your convenience text or emailing me that link, because I will drop it into the session details so that folks can have it afterward.
Okay, will do.
I would love to see that too. I love looking at those. That's really helpful.
Yeah. It's nice that somebody else can geek out on these things.
Totally. Oh yeah, I would definitely say the meat producers in this crowd are definitely nerdy about such things. We have a few questions that have come in. So just starting from end to beginning, what are some of the ways that you might suggest to thank a customer or show appreciation?
You know what, I used to give them product. Especially if we were trying something new, I was always trying to find something new to bring to the marketplace that somebody else didn't have. And I remember at the time the goats we had were dairy goats. We were making some goat cheese. But you still got kids, you still got to do something with. And then but at the time, in the late 90s, early aughts, there wasn't much people eating goat as much as they're more willing to, I'd say, today. And so we were trying some inventive things, some unique, like chorizos and certain cuts. And then so you have those, they say like 10% of your customers will drive 90% of your business. And so those customers, I would give them things to try. And because I knew I was going to get an honest opinion. back from it, and they're so appreciative that, one, I valued their opinion, and two, I gave them something for nothing, just because they're a customer of mine. I would say that was the key thing that I used to do, and you could just tell by the look on their face, like, really, you're going to do that? So it's little things like that.
I will add that I have used bacon as a I have
Nice.
a program with some of my direct customers to offer a free pound of bacon for every referral. So when they've sent me to their friends and their friends come and buy a whole lamb package, then I give bacon kickbacks.
I like that. I'm your customer. Along the same lines, I actually just did this week. One of the farms I work with, and they were raising pigs. You know, we're not raising animals, and they had sent out an email information. Hey, we're having a sale on pork, and if you put these packages to, I'll do that. So I did that, and I went to pick it up, and one of the ribs didn't weigh what it said on the website. And I found, like, with my receipt, there was like $3 a paper clip to the receipt. And I said, what's this for? Oh, this came a little short on weight. And, you know, it was that kind of honesty and that kind of transparency, because I looked at it and said, you know, I wasn't going to look at that. I paid what I paid. I got what I expected to get, I think, but I don't remember what the supposed weight was supposed to be for the ribs. But they were that, you know, that upfront and that transparent, which I thought was interesting. Well,
That's huge.
and they're very busy people, and to pay that kind of detail and attention to your customer is a big deal.
It's a big deal. This might be too big a question for okay, so I'm back and forth. I have two questions. I'm going to ask you one that may be too long, but we'll ask. So how would you describe marketing versus advertising? I think that they get really confused. So do you have
That's a good question.
Elevator answer on that one?
Yeah. The advertising isn't necessarily marketing. Marketing is very strategic and very, you know, like we were talking about, it's trying to identify that you can advertise anywhere. Like it would drive me crazy. Every community's got those kind of like merchandisers, or the things that the papers that come out every week that has stuff for sale in it. Or maybe not so much now, since most, you know, things are online, but these are on every week. And I would invariably see someone selling freezer beef in there. Who are you trying to reach? That is just advertising, but it's not marketing.
So then the side is, so what is marketing?
Marketing is a strategic. I'm sure there's an actual like Webster dictionary definition of marketing, but I think it's the attempt. Oh, there is. I should know this by heart. It is all the efforts that are used to bring a product to market, and which includes advertising and includes everything you do, like I said, after that animal was sent off to the butcher, and everything you do around the products from that animal is marketing.
Thank you. That's
including storing it. You know, because that has a cost, right? I remember in the dead of winter, I was visiting one farm, and they had an old truck reefer, a small reefer box truck thing on the ground, and he proudly opened it up and showed me the whole thing stuffed with pork. And I said, this is ridiculous. You've got to sell this now. I said, every day this sits here, you're losing money on this.
definitely. Yeah, anything that's not being sold, it's not moving, it's not bringing you cash flow.
Yeah. So that, to me, that's part of marketing is how we're rotating stock through that unit.
Okay, so I have one last question I did want to squeeze in, which is around the cute, like not showing pictures of cute lambs and trying to market meat. Social media platforms showing working cattle or working cows or like real life stuff. Is that a good approach for marketing meat? Or what if you're not doing the cute, if you're going the anti-cute lamb vein,
Yeah.
how would you market? What's effective at marketing meat? Is too much transparency too much?
The experience the customer expects, I think, if you're going to take show photos of your product, make sure they're good photos. Maybe it might even be worthwhile hiring somebody or somebody who takes really good photos of their product. And actually the farm I just bought, I bought the pork from, they do an excellent job of that. And here it turns out that one of them had like an arts background, so they knew how to make the stuff look nice, and they do, because nothing looks worse than food that doesn't look bad appetizing. So it's got to look like I want to have that tonight. And if it is livestock and you want to show activities on the farm, I think stuff at a distance, you know what I mean, rather than the up close cute. If we're seeing our animals grazing peacefully and nice on a beautiful day in our pastures, who doesn't want to see that? Yeah, but the average thing, or there's other activities that go on your farm that the customer doesn't know about, and they might like to know about. What is making hay involve? Who knows that outside of all of us here, right? it can be a challenge.
Well, thank you so much. This is really helpful. I took a bunch of notes. I appreciate it very much. And thank you so much for kicking us off today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. Really appreciate the invitation.
It's delightful. It's delightful to see you again after so many years as well.
Yes.
As a speaker. And so for the other folks, just to close out this session, for the other folks, we actually have a scheduled session at 10:15. But there was a crossing of wires, and so Kevin Channel is not able to make it to be with us at 10:15. So he's going to record his presentation and we will have it available afterward. But that means that our next session will be getting started at 11:15 instead. So I just want to let folks know, and for anyone who's missed this message, I'm going to jump on the Zoom at 10:15 just to make sure that folks know that they have an extra break. So thank you all so much for coming, and we will see you at the next live session, which will be at 11:15. Thanks.